Since September 29th of 2004, when Six Flags Great Adventure announced they would be building Kingda Ka, the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster, the ride was always advertised to reach a record speed of 128 miles per hour in just 3.5 seconds of acceleration on its launch. Like I'm sure most of you did, I always assumed that this was the required speed to reliably send every train up and over the 456-foot tall top hat in a manner that wasn't too slow or too fast. But after working Kingda Ka as a ride operator in 2015, I quickly learned 128 miles per hour wasn't the true speed. And with the ride now closed forever, I guess it doesn't hurt to finally state what the launch speed truly was. Before I do so and shock a lot of you, I do want to lay out a few conditions to soften the blow. One is that most people who work at Six Flags Great Adventure are most definitely unaware that Ka doesn't go 128 miles per hour. I'd guess this includes most high-ranking officials and most importantly the park's PR and marketing team. Kingda Ka's actual top speed was probably only known by those who worked directly with the ride, so primarily the ride's maintenance team and operating crew. Additionally, the ride's manufacturer Intamin most definitely sold Kingda Ka to Great Adventure with the claim the ride launched 128 miles per hour. Oddly enough, a sign in the ride's hydraulic room stated the ride launched 127 miles per hour, and Intamin's website claims Kingda Ka launched to 208 kilometers per hour, which is just over 129 miles per hour. And none of these stats are actually correct. Anyway, my point being is that I don't think Six Flags Great Adventure were trying to deceive you with their marketing of the ride, as quite honestly, the park most likely didn't know they were advertising an incorrect speed. Another factor is that fully loaded trains, which are loaded with riders, actually require less speed on the launch to ride up and over the top hat, whereas empty trains with no riders need a faster launch to ride up and over the top hat, otherwise they roll back. This surprised me a bit when I first worked the ride, but the concept is the same as with a more traditional roller coaster with a lift hill. A fully loaded train will carry more momentum through the layout and complete the circuit faster than an empty train does. So a fully loaded train on Kingda Ka carries more momentum up the tower than an empty train. To add to that, the hydraulic launch system is so powerful that it doesn't care if a train is fully loaded or not. No matter the condition, the launch system will hit the targeted speed. Additionally, a ride at the scale of Kingda Ka means that just slight variations in speed can lead to drastic changes in how quickly or slowly a train will ride over the top hat. Thus, the ride's speed controller automatically adjusts the ride's launch speed with something called speed reduction. This is in an effort to maintain a specific amount of time from when a train begins the launch to when it crests the top hat. If that time is too short, it means the train is launching too fast, and the speed controller reduces the launch speed for the next train. And if the time is too long, the speed controller increases the launch speed for the next train. Well, as you can imagine, empty trains require less speed reduction compared to fully loaded trains, since empty trains need to be launched faster. Thus, fully loaded trains actually see a good amount of speed reduction, which leads to an average launch speed of, get ready, 118 miles per hour, a whole 10 miles per hour slower than the ride's advertised top speed. I was shocked when I learned of this, as the control system reports the launch speed of every train, and almost every single loaded train that I ever launched on Kingda Ka traveled between 117 miles per hour and 119 miles per hour, with most launching at 118 miles per hour. Now don't worry, Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point also did not reach 120 miles per hour on its launch with fully loaded trains, and the situation at that ride was essentially the same. I don't have the exact number, but I believe Dragster only launched somewhere between 110 to 115 miles per hour with fully loaded trains. Just consider that Kingda Ka had a higher height to climb between the end of its launch track and the peak of its top hat than Top Thrill Dragster did, and with Ka only launching to 118 miles per hour on average, Dragster had to launch at a slower speed than that simply due to physics. Now say if Kingda Ka is launching fully loaded trains all day and then suddenly needs to launch an empty train, like after a moment of downtime when the ride needs to launch a test run, the speed controller will be calling for a speed reduction which is too much for an empty train, meaning the empty train would absolutely roll back, causing a delay in operations. To get around this, Kingda Ka had a launch boost function which was only used for empty trains. On the operating panel, it was called the empty train launch enable and could only be activated by maintenance with the turn of a key and the push of a button. This gave the launch an extra boost, which would send an empty train absolutely flying over the top hat like in this video here. And even with this boost, the top speed was roughly 123 miles per hour, still 5 miles per hour slower than the ride's advertised speed. I've actually gotten the chance to take test rides on Kingda Ka with the speed boost enabled since I was the only rider. The launch feels much more powerful than it already does, and you get insane ejector airtime all the way over the top hat, even with the trim brake leading into the drop. It gets even crazier when you consider that if a fully loaded train were to be launched with the speed boost activated, the train would haul over the top hat even faster than an empty train, and then charge into the final brake run where the ride would most likely trigger an overspeed fault. So if the ride were to actually launch at its advertised speed of 128 miles per hour, the ride would quite simply run too fast, with probably lethal negative g-forces at the crest of the top hat. Supposedly when Kingda Ka first opened, it did launch to 128 miles per hour, and then shortly after it was discovered that the speed wasn't needed, and it was better to not overburden the launch system, so the top speed was lowered to around 118 miles per hour. But I don't think I believe that, as even in videos taken when Kingda Ka first opened, the train crests the top hat at roughly the same speed the train always has, and physics are simply physics. You can't launch a train 10 miles per hour faster and have it crest over the top hat at roughly the same speed. Unless of course the wind is hitting in a certain direction, but I highly doubt that's the case. The only theory I have is that 128 miles per hour is the launch system's maximum capable speed with some sort of safety buffer applied. So I'd assume the launch system can technically do more than 128 miles per hour, but can safely produce a maximum output of 128 miles per hour without overstraining itself. But then when it comes to physics, a fully loaded train only needs 118 miles per hour to reliably crest the top hat. Interestingly, slight variations in the launch speed actually led to very different speeds over the top hat. Say if a fully loaded train is launched at just below 117 miles per hour, that train would almost always roll back, even if with a 118 mile per hour launch, the train rides over the top hat at a speed greater than 1 mile per hour. And launching a fully loaded train at 119 miles per hour can cause the train to rapidly crest the top hat. I often hear enthusiasts saying when fully loaded trains on Ka crest the top hat quickly that the ride was in boost mode, but that's technically not the right way to refer to it. Boost mode is only when the actual launch boost is engaged by maintenance, which has to be turned on one launch at a time. What you are seeing is the speed controller calling for a slightly lower amount of speed reduction, meaning the ride is still launching a train without the launch boost enabled, but just slightly faster than the typical 118 miles per hour. You were most likely to get the fastest ride on Kingda Ka with the first loaded train of the day. This was because all the trains prior had been launching empty of riders, meaning the speed reduction was greatly reduced and the launch speed was higher. Thus, the first fully loaded train would launch with the speed reduction needed for an empty train, somewhere around 120 miles per hour, sending it flying over the top hat. Following this, the speed controller would gradually increase the speed reduction, which would lower the launch speed, which would allow trains to crest the top hat at a more normal speed. But yeah, there you have it. Kingda Ka only traveled on average 118 miles per hour with a fully loaded train. Knowing that Kingda Ka and Top Thrill Dragster launched slower than their advertised top speeds, it's probably safe to assume that all intimate hydraulic launching coasters don't launch at their advertised top speeds with fully loaded trains. It makes me very curious how fast Formula Rossa at Ferrari World actually launches, as even though its top speed of 149 miles per hour isn't needed to ride up and over a top hat, it might still not reach that top speed every single launch. With that, thanks for watching everyone, and be sure to comment below if you found this information as shocking as I did when I worked the ride in 2015. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I wouldn't take this out on Great Adventure at all, as to be quite frank, I don't even think they knew that they were advertising an incorrect figure. Be sure to like the video as well if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more nerdy content like this. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.